Do you like conversation on a variety of topics? Feel like no one wants to talk about the things that interest you? Tired of only hearing the same political, sports, or catastrophe talk? Yeah, we feel that way too. Join two high-functioning geeks as they discuss just about anything under the sun. We can't tell you what we'll be talking about each week because we don't know where our brains will take us. It will be an interesting conversation though, so hang on and join us. Here comes the relentless geekery. Movies and TV.
It's amazing how many Zoom backgrounds there are available. By the way, let me get every possible memory user off so that we'll get, no stutter and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So yes, it's kind of funny how, we often talk about things that are very current, but already Game of Thrones is not quite fading from public consciousness, but this is nowhere near the that it would have been 7 years ago, 8 years ago. I'm trying to think of how long it took for them to finish the series, and now there's been an interim before we get to the prequel, right? Where they first talked about the rise of the Targaryen, the insane but powerful family. Gosh, that doesn't have any precedence in history at all. So
Right. Yeah. And I'm hoping Maverick finally comes out 1 year. I mean, it's been sitting in the can for like 2 years since COVID started.
Exactly. I think, unfortunately, like maybe Tom Cruise still looks eternally young, but I wonder how's the Iceman? How's I'm trying to think of the other character names. Do any of them still look?
Val Kilmer is a little worse for the wear, it seems. But I mean, we all do if we really. I mean, heck, I look at my martial arts pictures from 10 to 12 years ago, and I'm like, wow, I looked like that. I'm like, dang.
Right. Yeah, as we always do digress. I love Val Kilmer. I know that he's had occasional press where he's sometimes difficult to work with, but I think it's a matter of him really trying to do well. Like Philip Seymour Hoffman was known for not suffering fools gladly, but because he was turning in a great performance and wanted everybody to rise to the occasion, if you will. So that's when I've seen Val Kilmer in all kinds of things. It seems like he's often the best thing in the movie, and not even as the star. When he played Doc Holliday, right, in Tombstone.
Yes.
What a performance. What an understated yet powerful, who could give a line like, I'll be your Huckleberry, and not sound ridiculous, but actually sound kind of dangerous and kind of like, this guy is afraid of dying. You better be careful.
Right.
You know what I mean? Oh, he was great. Saint, he was great in, I don't know.
It's one of those. It's one of those. Sorry. It's one of those things where you hear good and bad about certain people, and you'll hear bad. In fact, this will be a great segue right to one of our topics on the list. You hear these things coming from some people, but not others. And so it gets really difficult to know what's the truth, or because, even if I go complain to somebody about one of my kids or my wife or something, well, that may be me at the moment. That may be heated. It may be that particular instance. And if you talk to her, you'll get a whole different story. And I realize that. So when people say, oh, I read this tweet about so-and-so. Okay, wait a second. Were you on set? Were you talking to somebody that you're friends with that was on set? Or is it just some random tweet? You can't go with that. Plus,
yeah, go ahead, please. Sorry.
There's a lot of like rock and roll that I would have never listened to if you really look at we love the blues artists. Those guys were notorious for sleeping with everybody in every town. So, I mean, come on.
There is such a voracious need in humanity to be a gossip. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't even matter whether it's true or not, kind of like along the lines of memetics. It matters that it's juicy. It matters that people will want to repeat it because they get, like, if not power, at least influence over, they're the one that seems to be in the know. They're the one that's telling a scandalous thing, though they weren't there to witness it, like you were saying. And so I've known all kinds of people that I was there at the event when, it happened. And boy, their version of it spun not just Rashomon, like slight variations, but like, I was standing right next to you. None of that happened.
Right.
How can you? So it's very weird to see how people kind of rewrite history, often with themselves having a bigger role or a bigger hero or whatever else it might be, or just to be salacious, just to be like, whisper. There's real influence from all the gossip shows and 24/7, 365 TV. There's a never-ending appetite for that kind of stuff. So,
and I don't want to delve into mental health. I'll mark that mental health down as a future topic because I'm not even going to say who, though anyone who knows me knows who I'm talking about. I know a person that I came to realize that no matter what the event was, within moments, a day, a year, a month, it doesn't matter. The story coming from that person would be completely different than what really happened. Even if, and this is where I started to realize it, something we had on videotape that multiple people witnessed, that you ask, well, what happened type thing, the story's complete. No, this is what happened. No, that must be another time. And they completely believe it. And I came to realize that they aren't just lying and being manipulative. There's something wrong. And they honestly believe what they're saying. They could pass a lie detector test. But, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I've read many studies, we put such credence in eyewitness testimony in trial and stuff like that. And there's all kinds of studies about how bad people really are at remembering detail, at remembering sequence of events, at remembering at attributing what was going on and why, as compared to just say what you saw, just say what you think happened. And, and not in, again, a bad way. We can't have eyewitness testimony. The people that are good attorneys or good examiners of that kind of stuff, they learn to ask the questions that get to the part of your brain that captured it sensorily instead of immediately going into the storytelling part of the brain, because that's how we really remember things, is that sequence of events, and we kind of fill in what happened between one and the other. And it's not, if you will, elements of a story, it's all the time. That while I'm looking at you, really what I'm doing is a series of, it's kind of like sampling, right? I'm taking shots of you and I'm creating reality out of all the things that are gapping in between. And especially, I remember learning this long ago, I did studies of display devices, and the way that you get idea of how frame rates matter, or how the definition in number of pixels and stuff like that, that the brain is amazing with how it will fill in all the gaps so it doesn't feel like it's continually jittery and the world is unsafe and unstable. No, when I move my eyes, it's not a standard sweep. It's a series of, I think they're called saccades, right? Where it does samples and it fills in the track. And that's how we learn about physics and stuff like that, is if you see a ball going through the air, you expect that if I already have here and here and here, and therefore I have an idea of velocity and trajectory, that I expect it to be over here. And then when you see a magician that's really good at sleight of hand magic, they're very knowledgeable about what our expectations are and how to thwart them, how to interrupt that in a way that at first it's startling, and then it's well, that's different than every other time in my life. Where did the ball go?
Right.
I love that.
And that's where, we have filters. So if I buy a BMW car, suddenly I see a million BMWs. It's the same number. My brain filtered them before. And that's the paranormal world, the cryptids and stuff. Like when I was working with Colin, that's where it causes a problem, because their brains will interpret and put things in. Oh, I saw a face. You open the closet door. Oh, it's not really a face. It's just the light on the sweater. So pareidolia, that's, a term. So everything has to be taken with a grain of salt, and that makes it rough. And this whole thing about actors, there's some actors that I'm like, yeah, you can kind of tell after watching movies and TV shows what they're like and who you'd want to know and who you wouldn't. And it's funny because one of them that had some controversy, Nathan Fillion, seems like a great nerdy, fun guy, every interview, everything I've ever seen. But then the end of Castle, there was some controversy and some bad blood, it sounds. So was it he's actually that, or was it just those two between themselves? And you said you've been watching Castle, so Castle's a great topic.
That's in fact, boy, let's switch to that. I think that's maybe a 10 or 15-year-old series now. It was on a while back, and it was, if you will, Nathan Fillion's work after Firefly and other things that I really kind of came to like him. And this character is a variation on that, kind of the lovable rogue, you know what I mean? But he does have standards. He is brave when he has to be. But having said all that, I guess I had read some of those similar things. Stana Katic, right, was his co-star, and that there was whatever chemistry they had on screen was really good acting after a while, because apparently they just didn't like each other a certain amount. I can't say apparently. Is that the rumor mill that fed us that? Is that the characters they had to play with, how many times they had to kind of come to teasing each other a little bit too much, getting together, but then breaking apart. That was a series where did they jump the shark by having them finally get together, like
Right.
any number of series, when in Moonstruck, when
Bruce
Maddie
Willis
and exactly that finally got together. It was like, well, the slow boil is over. Same with Cheers, same with any
right.
number of other things. So, and then they almost had to overcompensate, where they really, in character at least, started to really hate each other, resent each other, just couldn't get along. But then Danger brought them back together. And I remember some of what I had watched before. I don't know. I'm only up to like season 2. The reason I really like the series is because without, and this is kind of funny, I have all kinds of friends that what they want to know always is, how were the special effects done? And what's the backstory on people? And honestly, I just want the entertainment. Occasionally it matters to me, like I like knowing who the author is so that I can track them and maybe go to other things that they've written, screenplays or something. But most of the time, I don't want the backstage gossip. I really don't. I
Right.
kind of want it to spoil my illusion. And so I want to be able to watch this in some way. Can I put it out of my head that, where's the signs of friction as they appear? I just want to see how the characters.
I don't care what TMZ says. I want Entertainment Weekly.
Yeah. And I know that it did a good thing with, at first it starts off relatively, it's what an interesting combination. One of the ways it's interesting is it's relatively lighthearted, the banter, and not only between the two stars, if you will, but the entire police office, if you will. They're all very well written characters, and they have their own little ranking on each other and stuff like that, but also incredible love for each other and dependability for each other and stuff. But the crimes they're investigating are often pretty gruesome. You know what I mean? This person got frozen for 5 years, and then you know what I mean? Like, wow, it's not quite special victims unit or I'm trying criminal minds where it's like, wow, is the United States filled with serial killers? There can't be that many evil geniuses out there. You know what I mean? And so I love the fact that they're in an hour. They managed to set up all kinds of red herrings, all kinds of, it must be that guy. He looks suspicious. He has the motive. Oh, wait, that. And then they're very good at like kind of tracking you through not 1 or 2, but 3, 4, 5 suspects before you get to, there's the big revelation.
And the interesting thing is, Nathan Fillion's character is a writer who's following the cops, and then it just goes on longer than would be reasonable. Okay, we'll bypass that illusion there. That's whatever. Because the setup is just great. And if you like cop shows, this is a great cop show, but all the mysteries are really done in a more James Patterson writer way, which fits him as a character. And the thing that, like you said, that totally makes it is Nathan Fillion's character and the interactions. I think I enjoy him with his daughter and his mother as much as the rest of the story.
Absolutely. I'm not sure whatever happened to the daughter as an actress, but I thought that was going to be the launch of a career. I mean,
she is still out there.
Okay, so I don't remember seeing her in other things, I guess. And it's kind of funny. One of the things at the heart of the series is very much what we're talking about. The cops are all about evidence and putting together enough solid evidence to be able to convict. And Nathan is the storyteller. That is, Frank Castle. Is it Frank? Yes. No, Rick Castle.
Rick.
Sorry. And so the combination of the two is what kind of gets you to reality, that he can take them to let's extrapolate from that. Let's think of what might have gone on there. And oftentimes he's wrong, but at least he gets them to open up from just the very kind of static and stale. It's only the evidence that you if you're going to figure out motive, you have to get inside somebody's head. You have to be able to put yourself in their shoes. And so he's got those skills, and the others, and you know what I mean? So it shows the contrast between those points of view, and that maybe you need both in order to kind of succeed in life, in order to at least catch criminals. I mean? So very cool. And
it's different. There's little Easter egg stuff too. I mean, the one Halloween episode, it's funny you're watching that because I've started rewatching it and I'm on season 2 also.
And honestly, we didn't talk about this before. No. Who knows what led us to it? You know what I mean? And it wasn't like I got an ad for it. It was just like, I never saw that entire series. I kind of want to. I need to do the X-Files thing.
Right.
Watch everyone in order and get to the end. And I don't know, am I going to end up paying for some? Because right now I'm watching it free on like Pluto. And that's one of the things I had mentioned is, man, this Roku box is opening up incredible worlds of all the different stations that are out there and how many of them have different specialties. You know what I mean? That this is the documentary channel and this is the Brit channel and whatever else it might be. And what used to stop me from subscribing, so we cut the cord. We ended up getting Netflix and Amazon, and that 2 infinities of movies, that should be enough. Well, the industry got cunning enough to say, if we have a certain amount of exclusive content, we can get $2.99 a month out of 1 million people, and that's still pretty good money. So let's do that. And so I've been kind of looking into, do I really need to get the Brit box in order to be able to watch my Doctor Who's or my Wallanders? Or I'm trying to, maybe that's not a Brit series. You know what I mean? There's certain, there's a characteristic Brit series, if you will, that I want to catch up on lots of old stuff and also kind of stay current with. So I know that I don't have to just get it and I don't know I'm trapped forever. It used to be I had to sign a contract for a year or two. Nowadays, it seems, and we just did this with Peacock, we turned it on so we could watch the Olympics. And now that the Olympics are done and I kind of scan through what else do they have available, standard, if you will, NBC primetime TV,
turn it off. And you can turn it back on later. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I intend to do is, with Roku, you can do a search for all different kinds of things and find out what channel it's on. And here it's free, and here it's $1.99, and whatever else it might be. And so hopefully I'm going to be able to kind of hop around and turn things on and off wisely, instead of, oh, I lost track of that, and then I end up paying $40 a year for never having watched it.
Right.
You know,
right.
And $40 doesn't seem like a ton nowadays.
When you have 5 of them,
wasteful. Yeah, times 5 is $200, and I just pissed that away.
And if you invest it
like that.
so the thing I love about Castle and a lot of his shows is all the little personality things. The one Halloween episode, and I know you've just seen it, where he comes busting out and he's wearing his Firefly outfit, and his daughter goes, "Come on, Dad, didn't you wear that like 5 years ago? Isn't it time to move on?" It's
yes,
hilarious,
it's self-referential, and it's aware. It's got. We just watched a movie recommended by a friend called The Mitchells versus the Machines. It's an animated movie, so maybe it's up for Oscars for animation or something like that. I think that's why she was able to watch it, because she's in the industry and gets to watch all the cool things. To be able to vote. So she really does vote for the Oscars. So it is nowadays, many movies are very aware of what has gone before. So they'll, not only as an Easter egg, as a snarky thing, but they'll make a reference of, well, Dad, you don't want to be, a brown coat from Firefly. You don't want to be, they're aware of, is this a Star Trek world or a Star Wars world, or you know what I mean? Like, what future, dystopian or utopian, are we shooting for here?
Right.
And the fact that's become such a cultural touch point is very interesting, because in the movies, fake movies, they can make reference, because in the real world, everybody has seen a lot of those,
And
really cool.
So did you ever see the Sword and the Stone animated Disney show?
Yes, exactly. The Fox.
Okay.
Yes, exactly.
So Merlin was supposed to be lived backwards and lived forever, and he knew worlds outside his own. So the Disney cartoon, the wizard guy made little hints and references to like our real world, just those little funny things. If you didn't get it, it's fine. If you did, it's just a little funnier. Well, in my Town Magician story, I kind of modeled my main wizard guy after that, and he makes a few references, and my editor didn't quite get it and said, "Well, who's this person? You haven't talked about them yet." And I'm like, "It's just a little nod, a little Easter egg, wink, wink, if you get it or not." And she's like, "Well, it's going to confuse people. You should take it out." And I'm like, "No, I'm not." And the interesting thing is, Castle with Fillion was one of the signs from above for me to start writing. I had like 3 signs all at the same time, literally within a week of each other, that I said, okay, I've been thinking about writing. And this
the universe is sending me messages.
Exactly. I had been playing the game Alan Wake, which is one of my all-time favorites forever. Okay. And I finished it. And I'm like, and the guy in there is a writer, and he's finding pages to a book. And, so it's that. And literally the weekend after I finished that, I went to Bill and Bria's house for the first time, met Bill and learned he was a writer, and that. And then the Sunday we got back, I think it was Sunday, we sat down to have dinner, and you know what? This new show, or this show with Nathan Fillion, Castle, it always looked good. Let's watch some of it. And he's a writer. I'm like, okay. Within like 3 days, I got 3 signs about writing. So the following weekend, I didn't have the kids and I started writing.
Good for you. I love that there really are origin stories in real life, just like there are in comic books. And sometimes it's kind of funny. I really don't think that there's massive cosmic forces that are telling us those things, but there's nothing wrong with each of us saying, I just had this encouragement 3 times in a row why not listen to it? I like telling this story. When I tell the story of my life, I want to be able to say, the universe talked to me 3 times and I couldn't turn away. That's a great story.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The quest came to my house.
It's either that or a radioactive. It's either that or a radioactive Nathan Fillion bit me.
Yeah, something.
So there's our recommendation. If you haven't watched Castle, you really should. It's a fun show.
It's really good. And I as I watch it, I'm aware of like, wow, I'm only on the 2nd season. I think there's 7 or something like that. So I
7
love
or 8. Yeah.
Exactly. It's like, wow, I got a whole bunch ahead of me. And it's something that Colleen and I both seem to like. Sometimes, my series are too comic booky or science fiction-y or something like that, too many guns and explosions, and Colleen doesn't always care for them. Sometimes when we find things that we like, we devour them, and then you have that little bit of, oh, I binged too much. There's no more baking show for another year. You know what I mean? Maybe we should stretch that out. But there is a joy to saying, I really am enjoying it. I'm liking the current series contestants. Let's just watch one more. Let's see one that happens.
Right.
You know what I mean? When you find something you really like, you don't have to always deny yourself. It's okay to binge a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So,
And Castle, I mean, if you like the police shows, it's got that crossover because it's more lighthearted and fun with him in it. I'm not a big NCIS person, but I love Castle. Now, have you watched his newer one, Rookie?
I have not. So no.
That's what got me to watch Castle, because I started watching Rookie after 3 or 4 years now. I just started watching season 1.
Okay.
It's similar. He's 40-ish, mid 40s, and he has a midlife crisis. And so he decides to move to LA and become a cop. So he's the oldest rookie there, because like the other rookies are 24, he's 45.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so that's the premise, to set it up that, here's this bumbling old guy trying to learn all the stuff like a new kid. But just like Castle, there's a lot of good characters, a lot of heart. And it's not just like watching an episode of Cops. It's a lot of the story and the characters. It's not so much what crimes they're busting. They use that to very good dramatic effect. Exactly. But you're not just sitting there watching them solve mysteries. It's the characters and everything they're going through. Yeah. Not a soap opera, but you can't just watch them willy-nilly because of some of the other storylines.
Yeah. One of the things I love about ensemble cast shows is that there's always unplumbed depths. They can say, wow, we haven't put the spotlight on this character. We really should go a little bit more into what was their cop story. What was their, the trauma or the message from above that told them that they should be doing this. I've seen lots of similarities between Castle and Lucifer. Don't know if you watched any of Lucifer, but he's a consulting detective with a lady policeman. And the fact that he has, celestial powers or infernal powers is probably a better way to put it. But there's lots of the good office staff, the banter back and forth, the mysteries that seem to take multiple turns before they finally catch it. If a lot of the writing staff didn't go from one to the other, they handed off the template about how to do a show like this and easily do a quality hour.
See, now I'm going to have to go watch Lucifer. It's always been on the fringe, but now you say that. And I've said this before, and anyone listening, pass this on, tweet it out. Yeah. There is no other duo than Fillion and Tudyk that should be Sam and Al in a Quantum Leap reboot. I have said that how many times? I will have a very rough time with anyone that is not them.
It's kind of funny. Alan Tudyk has become kind of the Zelig of Hollywood. You know what I mean? When I keep finding out, he wrote that, he did that, he choreographed the dance scene for Peacemaker, like we just talked about. And here, I won't wait till the end, and this isn't really trivia, but it's like mind blown because I just posted about this. So we both know Pink Floyd. Yeah. An early album of theirs is called A Saucer Full of Secrets. And in fact, Nick Mason has been touring with a jazz prog-ish band, if you will, recreating a lot of that because it's not anywhere near radio friendly. It's really interesting and odd. Having said all that, if you remember, both that cover, Saucer Full of Secrets, and Metal are really interesting, kind of like oil drop paintings. They're up art, they're very unformed. Metal is of an ear submerged underwater, and recognizably so. Saucer Full of Secrets has all kinds of, like a montage of various different images. What did I just learn? Doctor Strange comic number 158, where the Living Tribunal, it's the second appearance of him. There's a page that they show. They grabbed this image of his head, and it's in the upper left-hand corner of the album cover. Here's a series of planets showing how he has this cosmic, influence. That series of planets. Doctor Strange, muted but recognizable over to the right-hand side. So it matches perfectly. It's late 60s. That's exactly when this was being made. You know, there was all kinds of crossover between comic book people and music people and movie people and stuff like that. And I love both of those things, and I had never noticed that before.
Wow.
So I've had those comic books for 50 years and those albums for 50 years. Boom. It really is there.
Mind blown.
Isn't that the coolest thing?
Yeah.
Kind of like when you put on Pink Floyd Dark Side of the Moon and watch Wizard
of Oz. Yeah.
It matches really well. You started, I think, right when they first go from black and white to color.
Yeah, the color, yeah.
Door opening to Oz. How cool that that they really did that, but kept quiet about it for all these years. Well, nowadays, it would be like people couldn't wait 2 weeks before blabbing. You know, either one of the creators or somebody on set or something would have copped to it. And instead, they just kind of like, I love that. I love that.
It's like a real life dungeon RPG, and you discovered a rare treasure.
Cool thing. Exactly. So that's my cool bit of trivia for the week.
I love that.
You know, and it's kind of funny. People won't have a lot of access to Doctor Strange Tales in 158. You know, Doctor Strange. But if you go online and look for that, you'll see that it really is there, man. It's not like what you were saying before about, hey, I'm going to see a face in this because we're built to recognize. Right. No, it's very clear that these three things are all right there.
Right.
So anyway.
Speaking of comic books, you probably could go onto Comixology or Amazon and find that. But this is our segue. You might not be able to. We mentioned, so two topics we've talked about in the past couple of weeks. One is Amazon buying and changing Comixology, and the other is user design in interfaces for programs and stuff. And I've been saying how Linux really needs to work on that, the open source people. Well, Amazon made an announcement. They're shutting down Comixology and folding it all into Amazon, which we said when they first did it. Yeah, that's what's going to happen and all of that. Well, they are, and it sucks.
It really does. When they bought it and just left it alone, I was fine for them to create the sales opportunities of, hey, it's not only about Comixology Unlimited, where you can look at things online that they really were good at. You can buy the latest issue, you can buy it digitally or physically. You know what I mean? That integration between atoms and bits, if you will. Well, whoever put together this transition plan and how they're going to be absorbing it into the Amazon world, it's terrible, especially if you're an existing Comixology subscriber, and I have been for a couple of years, to like, okay, where is the list of things that I borrowed in the past? Because I don't always buy it and then read it all the way through. I like borrow it. I like, okay, I know I'm going to want to read all the boys again, so I put them all in my queue, and I think there's a limit, but I haven't hit it. And same with Doom Patrol, and same with current, like with the Moon Knight movie coming out. Let's go read some of the best Moon Knights ever, especially the ones by Warren Ellis with Declan Shalvey and stuff like that. I just want to go and do that. Used to be, you just kind of go onto Comixology and go where you want. And now, without going into torturous detail, okay, I look up Moon Knight and it has that, but there isn't a series of buttons for, hey, buy it or rent it, or, you know, save it for later, if you will. All right, there's a thing here for library or what I've already gotten borrowed, so let's go there. Is there a way of sorting that based on chronology or on alphabetic? And it's like, it's dog's dinner. It's a huge screen. All the things that used to be, I can get in and out. I have time for reading 2 issues of something. That's what I'll do with my time while I'm waiting for this thing to compile or whatever else it might be. Now it's torture. And what they're trying to do, of course, is push you to buy a Kindle, to buy a dedicated reader. And it might even be like, oh, that's comic book size. That would work.
Right.
No, when I try to go into the Kindle app on
horrible
on my computer, it wouldn't let me say, I've been to Amazon for 20 years. How about if I use my same Amazon login and so forth, and I declare myself to Kindle? Something breaks. Is it, sometimes there's weirdness about the Safari browser versus Chrome or Google. So I'm like, okay, Amazon doesn't really have a browser like Google does. And so I always think of, maybe Google's just trying to make you use Chrome. Maybe the way to go is Firefox, because that's really not company, but kind of agnostic browser. I don't want to have to use either one of those. I'm comfortable in Safari. So I only have suspicion. I don't have why that isn't breaking. But after you troubleshoot it a little bit and say, okay, let's go and clear the cache. Let's come back in. Let's delete the app that I currently have, because maybe it's a previous version, and get the latest download version. Nope. It wants me to go use Kindle, and I can't get logged on to Kindle, so it'll make the connection and show me what's available to me. Who does that? Who loses a customer like that? That's terrible.
I have an iPad with the Kindle app, And I use that a lot for reading. It's a great size for reading and comics, especially. I open up the Kindle app and it throws all my books, which I have quite a few,
right,
and all the comics mixed up within that. And I can't hit a filter and say, just show me the comic books.
Right. Graphic novels only, please. Comics only. Exactly.
It's unread or just the read, and I'm just like, no. So I go online to Amazon, go into my account, devices and content, and I look, and they do have the comics separate, but it's just a big, long running list. And I'm just like, this is horrible. And they don't, and that, see, at least in the Kindle app, they'll put it by series. So if I find Amazing Spider-Man, I could click it and I see 127 issues or whatever.
And you can flow from issue to the next when it just says next. Yeah, exactly.
But if you go in the back end, because you want to manage your content, it's individual issues listed by alphabetical or release date. So you don't get it by series. And I'm just like, oh, dear God.
That's ridiculous. I mean, what's weird about this is, that it can't have only been like in the Amazon labs. They must have put it out for beta testing. And who didn't say, this isn't what I want? Well, this isn't how I want to read comic books. This isn't how I want to be able to search for something. They must have gotten feedback, and yet they pushed it out for some reason.
More than likely, I'm betting they have some plan, good or bad, whatever. But they're like, okay, this is the date Comixology is going to go away. So it has to be minimally working by that time. We don't care if you have I would hope that they have things still being worked on. Now they could say, okay, we bought Comixology. We're only making this much money, so it's not worth any time and effort. We can't support Comixology. We'll get rid of it. They're here. It's all good. And we're done. I'm afraid that could be it.
Yeah. Having been on any number of teams where they had a hard deadline, like you're saying, and whatever they had working, they declared we're in production. Everything after this is maintenance, even though it's missing major features, even though certain things are broken, but we had to be in production as of 1/1/87 or whatever. And look, we are. You know what I mean? So that was a big realization when I first, got on big projects for Pete Marwick days and as a consultant, was that Free, Perfect, and Now, you don't even get, usually they say you can get like 2 out of those 3. A lot of times there was nothing that mattered as much as somebody somewhere made a commitment, made a promise, and they weren't going to renege on that promise even if it didn't match reality. They just couldn't do it. That would end their career. Did they give you the resources to meet that date? Did they make sure that they had, you know what I mean? It was, wow. Corporate America, man. Wow.
I've been having some programming issues along those lines that I haven't had in a long time. That, here's this. We want to change all of this and we need it in a week. I don't even know what all needs changed. Or here, rush this. It needs done. I'm not getting it. It's not working. I need more assistance. I need some articles. I need support, something. Well, it needs up. Why isn't it up? Get this up. Change. Oh, wait, change to this one instead. Do this. But I already spent 5 hours on that. Okay, I'll change this. Okay, it's not working. That's okay. We're not going to use any of that. We're going to this. I've had both of those issues in the past couple of weeks. And it's just like, guys, we would have been much further ahead on all this stuff. You just say, let's plan this and see what we need to do. Here's the priorities. Here's secondary. Here's what can wait.
Yeah, I have had success and terrible failure when I finally had to pull the plug on things like that. Some cases they were like, you're right, we botched this. We really need to pull back. And as you said, decide on priorities, decide on feature set and stuff like that. Others, it was, nope, we needed this. We gave you what you needed. There was no pulling back from their series of bad decisions, but as long as they were the decision maker, the teller of the tale, they had to have a scapegoat. And just that, I think I always tell the story. I did some work for a big advertising company in Chicago, and every time that I went in with the prototype of what they had talked about, because they're advertising people, they didn't say, okay, let's take what you got and refine it. They would have another idea meeting. And they would just say, oh, no, and the kind of changes that they were looking for wasn't, well, we don't like the blue, let's go with green, or we want to have 5 things in this list instead of 3. It was the equivalent of, we really like this Christmas tree and all the ornaments you put on it, but really what we want is a spruce instead of a fir. You mean like the fucking structure, the actual, the thing that everything else hangs
which is
on.
Something you never mentioned before.
Make a decision as that solidly. Now and I get that you won't know what you like until you see it. But after you've done that 3, 4, 5 times, and there's an envelope that you go towards refinement. You know what I mean? That you make big decisions early and kind of commit, and then I just kept getting the rug pulled out from under me, the heart of the system stabbed, throw that one away. And as any quoter will tell you, I didn't throw it away. I kept all kinds of components, every single bit that I thought they don't know what they want really. So when they see it again and they compare it to other things that they're suggesting, they're going to come back to version 4. They're going to say, well, really, they're not going to say what we want was version 1, but they're going to say something like, this is what we want. And I'll be like, I already got that coded. You didn't like it then, but I'll bring it back up now.
Right.
And I was never sneaky about it, but it just was out of self-defense. You learn, if I've got a series of, fireflies that just don't have an attention span beyond mayflies, beyond the day that they're alive, you know what I mean? And even in making committee decisions, there's people that have an uncommon ability to sway public opinion that really don't have the best ideas, but they sure can talk it up, and they sure have enthusiasm, and they have anger.
Right.
Oh, man.
A lot of people still just don't understand the coding and development for computer systems. They just don't get that. They see, and I've actually had this said to me, well, can we add this button? Okay, what's that going to do? Well, it needs to do this. Whew. Wow, with the way this system is, that's going to be rough. Let me look at it and I'll get back to you. Well, what do you mean? This should just be easy. Well, here, I literally, I got a screen share. They pulled up Word, a document in Word, and said, see that button there that Word has? I just want that button over here in our stuff.
Right.
I can't just copy it. I mean, it doesn't work that way. Literally, exactly. You had that told to me.
Yeah, that whole tip of the iceberg thing, that people really don't always have a great idea as to the level of complexity, the level of difficulty in integrating multiple things that come from different worlds into one thing. You know what I mean? And I don't know, sometimes when I try to explain, here's why it's difficult, I get the hand waving, I don't care about that stuff. I just know what I want. It's like,
and I want it tomorrow.
But that's what my estimate is based on. And you can bring in another consultant if you want that will tell you, hopefully, much of what I'm telling you now, that no one's going to commit to doing this in the week that you just described. It's just not doable, and I'm pretty good at what I do. So most of the time, I've been able to get rapport and trust early by doing difficult things, but with quality, and then they trust you to make those next decisions. Sometimes I've had the how much by when people that were just, did you go to the bathroom again? Is that time away from the desk? It's like, wow, I think I'll never work with you again after this gig is over. You know what I mean? I can't have you. I always apologize for repeating myself, but Colleen has been going through a certain amount of this. And so I just share some of these stories. When you go with somebody, you say, okay, this will be done in 2 weeks. And then they call you on Tuesday and say, how's that coming? It's like, I swear if anything has changed, that'll give you a better due date or a worse one, I will, of course, inform you. I'm aware that you're managing expectations and that you're talking to the rest of the firm and so forth, but I'm not ever going to hide or withhold or work overnight to try to make up for something that I did wrong.
And I'm not telling you 2 weeks and then doing it in an hour. It's going to take 2 weeks.
And instead, I'm not going to sit on my hands and watch, et cetera, et cetera. And then, of course, not only Tuesday, but they come back Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And it's like, honestly, I guess this is your management style. But now what I have to tell you is every time you interrupt me, you cost me. There's a whole bunch that you put into your head to load to be able to keep multiple, you name it, code fragments and database things. And all of that has to be in to get it to integrate well. And when you interrupt me, I have to reload that. And it's not like a minute, it's 20 or 30 minutes to gather again the right frame of mind to work. So please don't. The reason that I didn't get the nice office cube that you offered me, that I got this scut cube, but it's over here in the quiet area, is because I need quiet. I need concentration. If you can give me an office and not have it offend all the people that think that the office is a sign of power and authority, it's because I need to be able to close the door. I need to be able to get away. Go put me in the unfinished section of the floor. As long as I have electricity and light,
exactly.
I will sit in the middle of
coders. They're not looking for the big rosewood desk. We want.
I don't need the plant. I don't need the desk. Exactly.
I had one that they said, okay, well, we want to make sure this gets done right. So we need to have a meeting in the morning and then another one in the afternoon to get updates. I'm like, okay, first of all, if we have a meeting in the morning and I only work for 4 or 5 hours and we have another meeting, how much do you think really is getting done? It's not like whole parts of systems are, just, and literally we'd have a meeting at 4 and then at 8 a.m. the next day. So 4 o'clock, we'd have a half hour, 45-minute meeting. That's pretty much my day. I'm done. And then 8 in the morning, we could start again drinking coffee. So what do we got here? Well, remember what I told you at 4:30 yesterday? That's where we're at.
Yeah.
Well, why don't we have any?
The Elvis did not come in.
Yeah, exactly.
Shoes, you know what I mean?
So, okay, whatever. But, go ahead. I got a different update.
I just, because it's funny, I worked at Progressive for a long time as director of databases. And not only did I do director level stuff, but I regularly did analysis and coding and things that required, again, some concentration. I had, by luck, the lactation room, formerly the lactation room. Right. Nobody else wanted it because it had no windows. It wasn't like a nice place to work necessarily, but it had a door and no windows so that no one could interrupt. And in the act of just like walking by, looking in, and you know what I mean? In there, I could have like my own music and my own privacy. And when I emerged, I was not an antisocial guy. I'd go and talk with people on the way to the bathroom or over the break room and stuff like that. But then when I went into the thing, and just that, most of the time I had my door open because I was approachable. When I had the door closed, it wasn't like me being a hermit. It was, there's something important that has to happen that I need to be able to concentrate.
I need to concentrate in the flow.
Treat this as if I'm lactating. Treat this as if I'm taking care of my baby. And that, you know what I mean?
Right.
But that only lasted for a not long enough at Progressive, and then it was changes. They regularly did movement of reshuffling of desks and movement of people from like building to building, and somehow I never seemed to trade up or retain even what I had. I kept getting, though I was like a level 6 out of 7 technical guy and director for a while. When I was a director, I had an office because they really did have that weird hierarchical system there. Once I moved to a more technical track, kind of an internal consultant, they just didn't have that respect because you didn't have to be able to close the door to have a confidential conversation. Oh man.
Yeah.
Oh, well,
when were you at Progressive?
Sorry?
When were you at Progressive?
Who was I? Sorry?
When? What time frame?
Early 2000s. Right after I got in town. That's from like 2001 to 2006.
Okay. Well,
5 years. So
early 2000s, probably a little before that, your time. Progressive was one of the companies I was looking at, maybe interviewing and trying to get hired in because I heard about their tech and how, pretty good benefits and, good tech work at the time and stuff. The other one, believe it or not, was Smuckers down in Orville that they had.
Exactly.
What was it, in Money Magazine or something? They were one of the top 10 tech hiring companies in the country. And I'm like, I could drive to Smuckers every day, I
remember being at either an Oracle or a Microsoft conference and representing Progressive, if you will, and someone was representing Smuckers. And I really was like a little teasy because I did not know until they talked about the kinds of things that they were doing.
Yeah.
It was like, you are absolutely state of the art in terms of SQL Server and integration with UDB and Oracle, which we're trying to do at Progressive, and not necessarily successfully because we're having problems finding people that do these things. It's because you're stealing them because
they paid good.
Exactly.
They paid good. They had great benefits, and they really pushed it at the time as, do you like tech? Do you like doing this type of programming? We've got something you're going to love. And this is so much fun, because they understood that the tech guys, the programmers, coders, that we get off on it. We love the coding. We love seeing that come to life and thinking about it. It's a very analytical, technical, creative process.
Yeah. It's Colleen, actually, when she was doing some job interviewing, this is a while back now, like 15 years ago, that was one of the places that she looked into, and things didn't work out. But that's always been, to her, one of the ones that got away. Not in the technical side that we're talking about. She does retirement planning and so forth, but instead of doing the retirement plan where you're the company that offers them, and then it would be the person that runs that for the individual company. But she got such a good vibe from, I don't know, are you gonna, there was possibilities of remote work. Are we gonna move to Orville? Not sure. We don't know that. Small town Ohio compared to Lakewood, where we have all the good live concert that we love. But having said that, it really was just that one of those ones that got away. We made a point of stopping by. They have an outlet store. We went down to Johnson Woods, which is a cool old growth forest in Ohio, like the oldest one in Ohio that's untouched. And again, I apologize if I repeat. a very interesting combination of the forest is right next to like swampland, so that Archer Daniels Midland that tore up all kinds of southeastern Ohio in order to get to the stuff underneath. This was not a good prospect for them, so it was left alone. So there's massive, cool old trees there, and conveniently right down the road from Orville is this Smucker's outlet. And the first time that we were there, we were like, they got every single kind of nut butter you can imagine. They've got, and we didn't realize how many brands Smucker had. So they've got like, I don't know, Angus chili, and I'm making these things up, but they had, we walked out of there with like a couple of bags of stuff, like just, we struck while the iron was hot. I wasn't aware that there were that many different coffees, bread mixes, all this kind of stuff. Let's just try a whole bunch of different stuff. And the people working there were just so impossibly cheerful. It was like, was this like Stepford? Is this, is this like a weird thing down here?
It did. It seemed like Orville revolved around Smuckers, like they built the town. And every TV show, that's always an alien race controlling them. So you got to wonder.
You go to get to the outlet store, you drive past the entire big factory and office compound, and it really is like, wow, they could be doing all kinds of stuff in there that the government isn't aware of.
Right.
It's an interesting area. And I guess just that, if they're going to be a company town, I apologize for going, like, one of the cool things about being a company town is when you look at, oh, they also sponsor the softball team. Here's the softball diamond that
right.
So that, and like there's the local symphony is part sponsored. So they really were creating quality of life for the people that live there, not just we're going to grind you down, you peons. You know what I mean? It really seemed to be that they had integrated beautifully into the community.
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool.
Which is funny because last week I talked about Jack Reacher, the Lee Child's book. And the very first one is exactly that. Some big company comes into a small town, revamps it and cleans it up. They give all the storefronts, looks nice. They give it to the community and all these great things. And then it turns out that they're laundering money and just using the town because it's small. Or you can say
a facade instead of real love for the community. Okay.
Or it could be like Charming, where you've got the Sons of Anarchy riding their bikes around and keeping control of things like some, Wild West town or something. So
exactly.
It lends itself.
Machines that I just mentioned, by the way, is all about like, the robots deciding, don't worry, humanity, we'll keep you safe. Well, until you're no longer useful to us. You know what I mean? So
then we'll just use you as a battery.
Like that, or like in this case, they're gonna like load them up to these beautiful rocket ships and shoot them into the sun, shoot them into interstellar space.
There you go.
Or
in this case, it's like, so what do you think of our new flavor jelly?
Exactly. It's so a special little zang to it.
Yeah, you like that? That's a natural coloring red. So in updates for coding, we were talking programming and all that, some of the new things I've been working on. I successfully this past weekend, with a little help from Ethan, made a WordPress theme from scratch that I coded it, didn't use any tools. It was all literally Notepad. And I did look it up. It was kind of going through a tutorial thing. So it wasn't like I was just randomly, I did, what are the files, what is needed in the files and that type of thing. Yeah. But, I'm able to open up the WordPress test development and I see the theme, I choose it, it activates it and it changes. And I can go in and mess with the CSS and, it looks different. So yay for me.
Good for you. A great success story and great success for like WordPress. That's been around for like 25 going on 30 years.
Yeah.
It's one of the things that tamed the web in terms of a lot of people wanted to do a blog or a vlog or whatever else it might be. And instead of trying to make a storefront into a blog, they said there really is a need for this, to be able to do serial posting, to be able to access indices, to be able to stop spam, you know what I mean? All the things you need to do to be able to stop people posting badly on you and stuff.
Right.
And WordPress has been a great solution for a long time. So I did it long ago when I first started the Smart Life, before Relentless Geeker, I had a thing called the Smart Life that I was working with. And then I ended up moving from WordPress to Ning because it had even better social media and powerful capabilities, if you will. But, everybody has these stories maybe. And then, so I moved to Ning, social media, and then Facebook arrives and explodes. And it's like, wow, I I really want to stick with all the investment, the time and the pain that I put into this and building my hundreds of users and stuff like that. It wasn't thousands yet. But then it's like, wow, I'm finding that Facebook is a tsunami. There's no way that you're going to be able to fight this. I'm going to it as often as I'm going to the Smart Life. And if I wasn't already committed to the Smart Life, I'd be like, wow, this is a lot of good stuff over here. So, you know what I mean?
Which is funny because now we've come to that other side of the loop, and we've talked about that before, that people are getting very disillusioned with Facebook, and there's people that just don't want to do Facebook. They don't want to go on it. A lot of authors like got rid of their author page and they're not on that. But I know several that are starting their own social media camp using Slack or Discord, or there's another online one. I mean, it's like your very own small personal Facebook, and they put their own website. And
that's right. Discord is one of the ones that when I first discovered it, it was like, wow, so it comes kind of from a gamer perspective, you know what I mean? It really is about forming up groups of people to be able to go in and do your rating and stuff like that. But having said that, it's a great alternative, and they haven't tried to compete directly with Facebook. They kind of let people discover them that are looking for that alternative and for different things that they might need. And I guess maybe we are getting to different industries, or maybe that's a bad way to put it, different interests. Like if you want to share recipes, maybe Facebook isn't the best way to do it, because its search features don't allow you to do what you really might want to do, which is go back to 10 years of recipes and look for anything that involves avocado or something like that.
Right.
And so I love the fact that there are alternatives. That's what it should be in a free world, a capitalist world. You know what I mean? It shouldn't be that there's one monolithic thing that so crushes everything else that now there's only one way to do it.
People want more control over their stuff, and Facebook takes that completely away. And that's, I think, the biggest thing.
Yeah.
So, okay. I know we're slightly rushed, not totally, but slightly today. So here's my other tech update. So my 3D printer, which I was ready to throw outside, and I'm like, come on, I can't be this bad. I know, blah, blah, blah. I tried everything I could to get it to work, couldn't get it to work. So I finally said, okay, well, I used up most of the little demo reel of filament playing around with it. I said, I can buy some filament. It's like $25, a ton of it. You get a whole ton of, I mean, it's huge.
Right. It isn't. Yeah.
Yeah. I can afford $25 if it doesn't work. I didn't want to waste the money if things weren't going to be working. Okay. Hey, guess what? The whole problem was the filament. It was all dried out. The new stuff prints beautifully.
So your high quality filament, fantastic.
It's a werewolf. I know. Well, you can't see it. There you go.
You know, how often is that true? Unfortunately, Scott, a good friend of mine who I worked with at Ameritech, that then went on to become a painter. He just decided he wanted to do something more physical, more like you can see results at the end of the day. Instead of just pushing paper and bits, he really wanted to be, this room was white and now it is olive or whatever. And he always talked about what matters, of course, is the quality of your brushes, the quality of your paint. It isn't me magic as a great painter. I am absolutely enhanced by knowing enough about these things that, like, what are my VOCs, my volatile organic compounds? And he was so happy to launch into, I guess it's like when I'm talking about my bread machine, you know, it's like, blah, 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 blah. You just can't stop talking about, if you get the right flour and you get the right, you measure your ingredients correctly and stuff, that whatever was not working before kind of magically goes away. And I'm so happy that you discovered that the sample filament was kind of like aged out, and now the good new stuff is going to put you back in the game.
Yeah,
and let you make werewolves. How cool is that?
So the biggest problem now. Oh, I made this angel too. I think she's pretty cool.
That's great too. Exactly. With the Aegis, the sword of heaven. There you go. There we
go. The problem now,
shield actually, but anyway, okay.
And now is that the little post is this big to hold the reel, but the reel is like this thick, so it keeps spooling off and getting tangled. I ruined 2 prints this weekend. One, it got twisted, so it wasn't printing. So I look, and here's the bottom of the where it was printing, and the head's up here doing nothing. And I'm like, crap. Oh, no. And then another one, it has to unspool, and it must have got caught, and it pulled it in, and it like broke the filament. So again, it got halfway through a print, and then it was ruined. So that was a beholder. I was printing a beholder.
Whatever spool size they use, you would think that they must know that what's the right size to make it so that the weight of it is not so much that it doesn't feed correctly, doesn't ever struggle, doesn't get,
Right.
I don't know, you want it to be perfectly round, because if it's like this, when it turns, it can actually do that weird little Wankel rotary engine thing and unspool more than you need. And then that, like you said, can get tangled in other things. Wow. So a breakthrough, but maybe some new things you need to work.
But I said it's such a big role. I could just cut it. And Ethan helped me with supports, because when you print, if the figure's holding its arm out and you just 3D print, that's just going to break off and fall or droop. And so you have to actually add a support that gets printed. Yes, to hold it up, and that snaps off. Well, you can do that in your slicer program. The first one we did, it just added supports, but then it like filled in between the supports. So we were getting
webbing, exactly.
Yeah, a solid block almost of, okay, that one's ruined. So, it takes some work. And the programs we were talking about, interface, these programs are not the easiest because there's so many variables, but they're not just very intuitive if you don't know 3D design and all of that. So I'm playing with it. I'm like, okay, it doesn't matter. I'm learning and getting better. So
I right now, unfortunately, handling my dad's passing and handling my mom's care is absorbing a lot of my time. In fact, I'm flying out today to go take care of more things out in California. That's one of the reasons that even though I keep reading about it and reading about, hey, I'm going to learn how to do honeycombing so that it doesn't have to be solid. It has to be what's the structure that gives you strength per weight and that kind of stuff. I will eventually dive in because I have so many things that I want to experiment with this. I want to make puzzles. I want to make figures. That stuff. I'm just lagging behind you. I wish that we can go back and forth about this. So, hey, well, here's the latest thing, and this worked and this didn't. That kind of thing.
Well, so I'm much happier with the printer. And I can give it a better rating than I was giving it before.
Okay.
And when you have your files, so I did get some files from Humble Bundle, but you have to put them in the coding format for your printer to recognize. You have to save it in the right format. So you have to bring it into a slicer program, and the slicer program cuts it so it knows for each layer, and you can adjust those, and you can just, for ease of use, you could say low quality to highest quality, and it uses more of the filament, and it takes longer at the highest quality, obviously. So I got to play with it some more, because these are blue because Micro Center did not have that much filament. They were like almost bare. I was like, oh my gosh.
Okay.
But I think if you paint over it, it'll still paint well and cover up the blue. But you look at it and it's got some, like, the sword is not nice and smooth. It's a little jaggedy. And the detail looks nice, but then it's also got areas that are a little janky from the printing. So it's not as high a quality as like a figure you'd buy in the store for $5 or $6.
Exactly.
But this cost me like 45 cents. So
my younger brother and his friends were great when they played D&D. They often played with little figures, little miniatures, and they bought all different kinds of sets, and they learned which ones were great about it. Right out of the box, it looks great, or you have to kind of like file away some of the flashing. If it was done in a mold and it's got that little ridge on the side where that was what leaked out from the mold, if you will. And they were amazing, like the artwork that they could do and the tuning that they could do so that it was all just the right smoothness, texture, etc. It was really cool. To see, like, I don't know, they all looked like jewel thieves or something like that. They had these little visors that gave huge magnification, and they got such incredible steady hands. They're painting like a sigil on a shield with a brush that's like two little spindles. I'm trying to think what you call it. And yet they were able to like have that incredible steady hand. My idea was like, can I dip it in brown? Can I, you know what I mean? I'm like, I'm just not the guy to make Pisonki. I'm more the guy to like, give me the roller and I'll do the entire wall.
Right.
Maybe that's not true. I have really good eye-hand coordination and fine motor skills, but I don't know that I get the satisfaction out of people that really love being able to say, you can see each individual link of the chain that's around this guy's waist. He's wearing a chain belt. I don't know. I get impatient or something. I don't have that.
Right. Me neither.
Yeah. So
all right. Well, I know we're closing in, but real quick, we still got things on our list that we haven't gotten to. We'll get to, but I have a quick, interesting trivia. You ready?
Okay. Yes.
Return of the Jedi, the original Ewok celebration song, the Lub Nub song. We got
Yes.
to know, that one.
Right.
Do you know who wrote that?
So is it? So I'm going to guess somebody like Mark Mothersbaugh.
That is an extremely good guess. Here, I'll give you a clue.
Who's the guy that came from Oingo Boingo?
Good guess.
Darn it. I would have guessed somebody like that, like a rocker that became a sound guy for movies.
Well, kind of. It's almost the opposite.
Trevor Rabin. Also, let's see. Weber, Andrew Lloyd Webber.
No.
Okay.
I'll give you a little clue.
Okay.
He was the front man after Jedi. He became the front man of a super group, classic rock group, in like the mid 80s.
So like John Wetton for Asia, or
but not them, not him.
But not them. Wow.
I don't.
Okay.
Okay. So I'll tell you who he was the group of, but see if you know his name then.
Okay.
After he did the Lub Nub song for Return of the Jedi,
right.
He became the front man for the supergroup Toto.
Oh, it's Jeff Porcaro. No, that's
not him.
It
was only like a year and a half, 2 years.
Right. I'll get this. And he's the lead singer, front man, right? So
yes, his father is another famous musician.
Okay. So I knew it was the Porcaro brothers, and it's damn, why is it not coming to me? Because I can even like picture the first album, and
I didn't know this one. I didn't know who it was, but
okay. I'm sorry, I should get this.
So the front man of Toto that previously wrote the Lub Nub song for Return of the Jedi was Joseph Williams, who is John Williams' son.
See, I wouldn't have gotten that.
Me neither. I was like blown away.
For the first Toto album, I wouldn't. That doesn't ring a bell at all.
Well, I don't know if it was the first Toto album.
Okay.
It was like 84 to 86 or something like that. He was front man.
Because I still buy like Steve Lukather albums. He was their guitarist.
He's still in it.
An amazing guitarist.
He is still in that.
Yeah, in fact, he had like there's a couple of Christmas albums that are like shredding Christmas albums that called like Merry Xmas.
Yes, I love that one.
He's ever made is like, man, this guy can play.
Yeah,
I really love him. And the Hydra album, the fourth album from Toto, I really love the first album because it had pop friendly songs. The Hydra album has all kinds of more proggy type things, and it's like kind of that transition before Africa and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, Joseph Williams.
There you go.
Okay,
did not know. I watched one of those things online, 10 things you didn't know about Star Wars or whatever. I knew 9 of them. So whatever.
Very good. And John Williams sung. So that's how interesting, and the fact that I was going down that, well, there are certain people that are Danny Elfman, John Williams. I mean, they were responsible for 90% of the great, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So, all right.
Thank you. That was a good one. That's a good stuffer. Okay.
Have a good time out in California. Well, as much as you can.
It honestly, grief works oddly. I'm not torn up, but I am ambushed occasionally by, oh boy, that's so much reminiscent of something that me and my dad talked about, and we'll never have that conversation again.
Yeah.
And it's all those little memories and all those songs and all those places that are like, can't think of it without being, well, my family went on a vacation there. And
you really do go through those different stages, and any strong emotion like that, you just can't sustain it for long. It's just human nature, but
I think it is.
It enters a different feeling and phase, so I get you.
It's kind of weird. I'll be like talking and I'll start leaking tears because it isn't like, whoops. Anyway,
spammer.
Time will heal, as you're saying, you know what I mean? And there's still things to be handled, but there's nothing that's scary. It's just going to be, what does the law require? What does the family require? All of it, you know what I mean? How do we handle the money and the possessions? And of course, making sure that my mom is taken care of. She's, the way the brothers are able to work it out, we're still not going to be able to always be there for her. So she's going to be weeks without a visit, whereas my dad used to visit every day. And that, I just can't stand it. I can't stand it.
Right. So
I can't stand it. And
well,
yet,
get past all the crap you got to go through, because then you can, worry about your mom and talk to your brothers. Hey, remember when we did this with dad? And you remember the good stuff. So
today is the day of his cremation. So tomorrow or soon thereafter, I pick up the cremains, and that's just going to be like, oh man, that's about as final as you can freaking get.
Well, make sure you got your favorite tunes on the plane.
That's a great way to put it. Exactly. So I got my traveling outfit already. I got casual clothes. I tend to not dress up on planes anymore.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for getting this a little bit early today, so that I will not be in a crazy rush to get to the plane. And have a great week. And
you too, sir.
We'll still be able to do things next week, even if it's laptop instead of my characteristic skynet.
Okay. Remote.
You have been listening to the Relentless Geekery podcast. Come back next week and join Alan and Steven's conversation on geek topics of the week.